Have you not seen what's going on there? Did you really expect there to be hundreds of people following each hole? People aren't watching and people aren't going to these tournaments. Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, and all the big names on the PGA Tour will be at Bay Hill for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And we've got you covered with a great show and full of tons of gambling content, guys. We're going to go over some outright winners, finishing positions. We'll take a look at some DraftKings darlings, get you ready for DFS, and get you ready to turn a profit on the Arnold Palmer. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com, being joined, as always, by Nick Borman from WagerTalk.com. Nick, we had an odd tournament last week, finishes on Monday. Hardly anybody was there to watch it. It was kind of surreal watching Eckroat take it home. Do we finally get a big name this week, do you think? I actually kind of have a theory as to what's going on here with why we're getting some of these, I'd say, lesser names winning these tournaments. But here we go again with it last week. So what do you think? Is this the week where we turn the tide?
Jake Knapp wasn't big enough for you? Yes,
No.
This is the week, Andy. This is the week. Bay Hill is tough. It plays very major-like, or it can, especially depending on the weather. So I think this is the week we're going to see the big name and the low odds come through for us.
We've got a nice promo code coming up a little bit later, but let's talk about Bay Hill. As Nick mentioned, this course can be an absolute brute. Each year it's hovering around the top 7 hardest course on tour. This is not going to be a birdie fest, most likely. The greens, they can be fast, but there is rain in the forecast for Tuesday overnight, bleeding over into Wednesday. So I think it's going to soften up the greens a little bit. It should help players control the ball a little bit more on the approaches. The rough is grown out. This is 3-inch rough. So this isn't one of those where you can bomb the ball off the tee, and if it doesn't hit the fairway, no big deal. This is something that, is going to affect guys. You have to put the ball in the fairway. There are 9 holes where water is in play. 3 of the par 5s are 550 plus yards. And the wind looks like it's going to be an issue on the weekend. Saturday and Sunday looks like it's going to be the windiest 2 days of the tournament. And Nick, this could be a thing where shooting even par on the weekend could put you in contention to win. This is just not going to be one of those -15, -19 type of tournaments. So difficulty of win, difficulty hitting the ball closest to the hole. Guys are going to have to make some of these putts that are 10, 12, 15 feet. It's just not going to be one of those courses and one of those situations where you're going to be able to go pin hunting on every single hole. So what's your takeaway on this course, Bay Hill?
Yeah, it's difficulty. It's going to be driving. It's going to be important this week, as well as long iron play. If you look back at history in the recent years, Bay Hill ranks in the top 10. You mentioned top 7. Routinely, almost every year, in hardest to find the fairway, only 54% of fairways are hit, and then subsequently greens, only 58%, which both rank in the top 10 difficulty as far as hitting fairways or hitting greens goes. Course is long, almost 7,500 yards. It is a stock 72, so there are some scoring opportunities, obviously, with the par 5s, but rough is long, 3 inches. Apparently, Florida has been wetter than usual, which means the rough is even thicker than usual, so just more emphasis on finding the fairway off the tee. And there's a large number, more than average number of shots that come from 175 yards or more because of how long this place is. So long iron play, very important. And of course, like I mentioned, driving. And it's even more obvious, those 2 skill sets. Just look at some of the past winners. Andy, you got McIlroy, Scheffler, DeChambeau, and of course, Tiger Woods. All those guys could drive the ball well, and Tiger was the best long iron player we've ever seen, in at least in our lifetime. So it just goes to show that is the skill set that has proven here, and it always helps to have a little bit of course history. 6 of the last 7 winners at Bay Hill have had at least one previous top 15 in the tournament. So it goes without saying that some experience around this track and the difficulty of it and where to miss is important. And one last little element I'm looking at, because of the fact that this course, you're going to miss greens. There's just no getting away from it, right? So I'm looking, for guys that can scramble very well and have a tight short game right now, because they're going to be scrambling. It's going to happen. Nobody's going to avoid it. But the guys that can minimize those mistakes will have a huge part, come down the end on Sunday. But I'm not really paying too much attention to putting. I think that's one part of the game. Obviously, if everybody's equal, the guy that's going to make more putts is going to win. But if you're going to give me a guy that's driving the ball well and hitting his long irons great, I'm going to take that guy over a guy that's putting very, very well right now, because I don't care what putting's going to do. If you're not getting there, it's not going to matter. I think this week it's not going to be a huge thing. And you already mentioned the weather, Andy, so I'll leave that alone. But I'm really looking forward to it. It should be, I think, the best field so far this year. And we'll look at that a little further when we get into the players themselves.
Yeah, stacked field. We can go over the field here a little bit. I mean, basically all the big names from the PGA Tour are playing. Scheffler, Rory, Cantlay, Hovland, Schauffele, Kurt Kitayama is your defending champ. Tons of big names. Tons of big names. I guess I'm just wired so far this year to not be surprised if there's another surprise guy up near the top on Sunday. So a couple of names I'm interested on how they perform. I'm really interested in how Will Zalatoris looks this week. Came off runner-up on his last time out. So excited to see him and see, hey, is this guy back to, being in really good form? Because let's face it, the PGA Tour could use as many big name guys playing well week in and week out as they could possibly get. I thought it was nice to see Shane Lowry with a fourth place finish. It was a bummer that he hit the ball in the water towards the end on Monday, destroyed his club, destroyed a tee box when he hit the water there. I thought that was good to see him up near the top. And then Cam Young. Cam Young has 3 top 10 finishes in his last 5 tournaments, and it would be nice to see a guy like him show a little bit of consistency. That's kind of what's eluded him over the his short career. Is he'll have one good finish and then a not good finish, and then a good finish, and then a not good finish.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, come on, let's piece it together. So it's always exciting when you watch these younger guys start to really figure it out. This guy's finished 10th and 13th here the last 2 years. So those are a couple of other names that I'm pretty excited to see. I don't know if there's anybody else that you're excited to watch perform this week in this loaded field.
Yeah, I'll hit on those players here in a second when we get to the strokes gain graphic, because a lot of them are going to be highlighted right then and there. But it is worth noting real quick before we get to that I did, looking at talking about trying to get a big name winner. If you look at last year's leaderboard, yeah, Kitayama won, surprising everybody, but in the top 5 along with him, McIlroy, Scheffler, Spieth, and Cantlay. So clearly that was a loaded leaderboard last year, and all very good for PGA Tour viewership, which, like you said, they need right now. So I'm expecting to see a similar leaderboard this year as well.
Absolutely. If you're enjoying this gambling content, guys, go ahead and hit the like button and leave us a comment. Always love seeing who you guys are picking and what bets you guys like this week. So just hit the like button and subscribe. We've got all kinds of daily content for all sports, daily NBA videos, college basketball videos, getting you ready for the upcoming March Madness. And of course, we've got you covered with golf every single week. So go ahead and leave a comment. We love seeing who everyone likes this week. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe, hit that bell, and get notified when all the videos come up on WagerTalk.com's YouTube channel. Let's take a look at the strokes gained graphic. And this takes a look at who's been playing good 12 months, 6 months, last 3 months. So, Nick, we still have a pretty loaded big names filling up this this board. And we talked about having a lot of long shot winners, but I think what this graphic shows is these long shot winners, they're not duplicating it. It's not week in and week out that, it's kind of these one-off winners. So let's take a look at the strokes gained graphics. What can we take away from it this week?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Andy. Long shot winners are not consistent over time, and that's why you're not seeing those names here. These are guys that are performing well consistently even if they're not winning, they're consistently in contention. Scottie's obviously leading the way, number 1 in the world, pretty much guaranteed a top 10 finish every time he tees it up. Clearly why we're seeing him, even again, if he is not winning because there's somebody beating him every week, he is one of the most consistent on tour. And this is basically the odds board you're going to find on any book out there. It's Rory, it's Xander, Viktor, Cantlay, Morikawa, Fleetwood. The most surprising thing I think on this graphic for me right now is good old Ludwig Åberg, 11th in the world, Andy, somehow, crazily. That's a quick rise, man. So good for him. He is playing well. He does have that win already under his belt on the PGA Tour and on the DP World Tour. So first time around here, so not as high on him coming in. But JT is a guy we talked about a couple times and trending in the right direction, and we're getting a number on him north of 30-1. I'm very interested in him this week. But it's exactly what you'd expect to see here as far as the leaderboard goes, and the best guys as far as the odds market. Consistency things we talk about each week. A guy like Russell Henley is 12 months, but his shorter term, not as strong. He's also not a long hitter, so he might struggle a little bit this week. Viktor Hovland, surprisingly, not the greatest short-term stats. However, a guy like him, he's only played, I think it's twice now so far on tour this year. Maybe it was 3. So it's limited experience. So if you have one or even 2 kind of bad or so-so events and you're not playing much, you're not going to be able to hide anything. So I take those ones, like a guy like him, with a grain of salt. But otherwise, it's exactly kind of what you'd expect to see. And Xander's another guy. I think he's got the longest made cut streak right now on tour. And you can see that here because his numbers don't really change from 12 months to 6 months to 3 months. He's just even keel. So that's our top 10 this week, Andy. I'm thinking, said it, I think every week this year so far, I'm thinking our winner's going to come from this graphic this week.
If you just kind of let everything go silent and you try and listen really closely, you can hear Joaquin Niemann complaining about Ludwig Aberg being ranked 11th on the World Golf Ranking. At the end, Nick's going to give out an outright winner for the Puerto Rico Open, and I'm gonna touch on these live guys whining about some of this stuff because, quite frankly, I've had it. I've reached my breaking point with some of those guys, but yeah, Nick, you mentioned Viktor Hovland, which is a great segue into players that can trip you up. This is my segment I do every week where I take 3 guys that I think everyone is going to be betting on or going to want to be betting on, and I would just say be careful. I think these guys can trip you up in daily fantasy, seasonal fantasy, head-to-heads, and outright. So I will start with none other than Rory McIlroy. We had him last week as a player that could trip you up, and he looked like he was doing pretty good. And then, Nick, another finish outside the top 20. And this guy is being priced as number 1, number 2 betting favorite. He's just not getting it done on the PGA Tour. So 21st last week, well below value. And I know he loves playing here. Listen, I've seen the stats. I get it. Top 10 machine. But it just 3 finishes on the PGA Tour this season are 21st, 24th, and 66th. In his last 3 months, he's only 19th in total strokes gained in this week's field. And really the only part of his game that you can point to that he's been doing well is the driving distance. And he does drive the ball far, drives the ball long. His approaches have not been good this year. His putting is really, really bad. You could point to his approach last week and say his irons were much better last week than they have been for this year, but I just can't get over how bad this putting is. His putting's minus 0.36 in the last 3 months, and that's just not going to get it done here when you got a loaded field with all kinds of guys on a really difficult course. So Rory McIlroy is my first player that I think can trip you up. Up next is Xander Schauffele. He has been great this season, finished top 10 in 4 out of 5 events. But he was 39th here last year. He didn't play here the 2 previous years, and before that, 24th. And we've seen some of these bigger name guys avoid some courses that they appear to not really feel comfortable on. And maybe there's something about Xander Schauffele and not really liking this event, because only playing here twice is kind of a red flag, and finishing 39th and 24th is a red flag. That is well below his normal average. So he's priced as a top 5 favorite. It's just too steep of a price for me on someone who, doesn't really play here that often. And when he has played here, hasn't really finished good. So I'm going to be staying away from Xander Schauffele. I don't think he's the top 5 guy that his price reflects. And finally, I am going with Viktor Hovland. He's finished 2nd and 10th the last 2 years here, but he's not finished better than 19th this year on the PGA Tour. And his total strokes gained this year are only plus 1.07. That is 26 spots worse than number 1, Scottie Scheffler. So there is a wide gap between what Viktor Hovland has been doing and what Scottie Scheffler has been doing. I'm going to need to see top 5 upside on him before I start wagering on him. He's paired up against the biggest names in head-to-head matchups. You got to pay a steep price for him to finish top 20 and top 10. And difficult field. I know he's played good here, but I need to see it this year. So Viktor Hovland rounds out my top 3. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, and Viktor Hovland, 3 players that I think can trip you up. Let's take a look at a player that Nick is high on this week, and I have to agree with him. So let's take a look at an outright winner. Who do you got for us, Nick?
First of all, if this is your first time watching, got to give kudos to Andy on that segment. He's not picking guys at the bottom of the odds board. Anybody can do that. He's picking big name players that he thinks are worth avoiding this week. So it's not easy to do, but he does a very good job on warning us of those big name players. So as always, whenever it happens, I'm glad to say I'm not on those guys. Makes me feel good. I'm moving on to an outright winner this week. Andy, I'm going back to the well on Justin Thomas. We tried him a few weeks ago. Coincidentally, I think it was his worst start of the season, but I said it before. At that point, at odds this high with his current form overall, he's just a must play for me. He's over 30 to 1. You can get him as high as 33 to 1 right now. He missed the cut in his last start at the Genesis, yes, but that did snap a streak of 7 straight top 12 finishes, including 5 top 6s, where he legitimately had a chance to win several of those. His iron play and his short game have been phenomenal, which the latter I did mention in our preview of the course is likely to be a big factor this week, as the greens here are very difficult to hit. The negative for JT is, like you mentioned with Xander, this isn't an event he usually plays, but given its signature status, of course, he's here and everybody's here. But he has played this twice before. He did finish tied for 21st last year, so respectable. But that was in the middle of probably his worst year on tour, so keep that in mind. Then really what it comes down to me, Andy, this is just crazy to say out loud. You got Ludwig Oberg, Tommy Fleetwood, Cameron Young, all listed at shorter odds than JT. Combined, they have one PGA Tour win under their belt. JT's a 15-time winner at a longer number, good form. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I just see value in the numbers. So I'm hoping JT can rebound after his miscut and come back and play well this week. And I just at his number, it's too hard for me to pass up.
Have to agree, man. 33 to 1 on that guy he's got one of the highest ceilings in all of PGA Tours. So
Yep.
love that pick. We mentioned a promo code for everyone earlier. That promo code is Palmer49. Palmer49. It gets you 30 days of golf for $49. You can use that on myself or Nick. I've got a 4% and 3% play that is up right now. There's no reason to just grab that pack. There's just grab the 30 days. It's a steal. $29 for
Players
this week's
next
pack.
week too, Andy. Players
Yeah,
next
we
week
got a
too.
big, we got a really nice stretch of golf here. So use the promo code Palmer49, gets 30 days worth of golf for $49. Absolute no brainer to take advantage of the head-to-head matchups that we have up. 7-4 head-to-head matchups this year. So really happy with that. I've never had a losing season in golf. Nick, what do you have up at WagerTalk.com for this week's event?
This week's pack's already loaded. I got several outrights already loaded, and I have a 5% leaderboard bet, only the second one so far of this season. So that is included this week. That alone, this week's pack alone, is going for $39. So $10 more, you're getting the next 3 tournaments besides this. So 4 total tournaments, including the player. So looking forward to it. And then besides golf, MLS is just underway, and you can get the full season right now for $2.99, going for 6 straight winning years, Andy. So hopefully we'll start hitting our stride here as the season gets going and going into further into the warmer months.
Love it. Use that promo code Palmer49. It works for myself or Nick Borman. You can get both of us. Why not? Why not lock up two golf handicappers at a discounted price for the next month of golf plays? Let's take a look at DraftKings Darlings. Great week of DFS. When you got all these big names, you can really pick your spots with the lesser priced guys. So I will start with Eric Van Rooyen at 6,600. He does not have good course history here. He didn't play here last year, but he did play here 2 years before, 57th and a missed cut. I just can't pass up a guy at 6,600 who's finished 2nd and 8th the last 2 weeks. If he is in a groove and he's just hitting the ball very, very well, and he's got just a really good short-term run in him, 6,600 is going to feel like a steal. So the course history does make me nervous, but when you're digging this deep and you're finding guys at low prices, there's not going to be all upside. But Eric Van Rooyen, 2 straight top 8 finishes. Yeah, that's got my attention. I'll take a sprinkle on him at 6,600. Up next, Emiliano Grillo at 6,900. Made the cut in all 7 tournaments this year, and he finished 39th here last year. He's played here 6 times. He's made the cut in 5 years. The other, he got disqualified. Listen, Nick, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I like the motivation. I like trying to get an edge on the competition. I'm all in on him. No, his putting numbers have been fantastic. I think he's a real value this week. This guy's made the cut in every tournament he's played this year. So he's very low priced on DFS, and he's very low priced on some of the leaderboard bets. This is a guy that finished 39th last year, so he squeaked inside the top 40. So Milan Grillo at 6,900 is definitely going to make my card. And then Harris English at 7,300. He's made the cut in all 6 tournaments in 2024. Finished 17th or better in 4 of those tournaments. This is a guy who was he was really good last year. He's got upside, and we've seen it this year with some of those finishes inside the top 17. So with Harris English, I get a guy who's consistently making the cut. He's shown upside. So we look at Eric Van Rooyen at 6,600, Milan Grillo at 6,900, and Harris English at 7,300. I have a free golf article up at WagerTalk.com. Just go to digital downloads on Andy Lang's profile page. You can download it. You can see my full DraftKings lineup up there, and it starts with Van Rooyen, Grillo, and Harris English. That's, again, a free digital download, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. All right, Nick, let's take a look at these leaderboard bets. A lot of really good plus money prices on some guys who are plus money because it's a loaded field. Doesn't mean they're not going to go up there. So I love this one that you found. Who are we looking at for the leaderboard bet?
Yeah, Andy, every once in a while, I feel like I throw a guy's name in this segment that I feel like I haven't bet on in multiple years, and that certainly feels like the case right now with Adam Scott. I don't know the last time I bet on Adam Scott, but ho-hum, and I had to look this up because I caught myself by surprise here. Scott has quietly, I say very quietly, produced 7 straight top 20 finishes worldwide, including each of his 3 PGA Tour starts this season. He was on the number, finishing tied for 20th at Pebble, tied for 8th at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and tied for 19th in his last start at the Genesis. So even though he might just be right there, he is close enough to cash those tickets. His ball striking has been fantastic. He's one of the best drivers out there. He's gained strokes off the tee in 16 of his last 17 measured starts. There's a couple tournaments in the fall that aren't measured, as well as he's gained an average of plus 1.12 strokes on approach over just his last 5 starts. And then throw in, Scott's famous sweeping putter stroke, which is always on point. He's one of the better putters with that stroke. Obviously, that's a nice recipe for success, great driving, good iron play, and being able to putt. He does have a spotty record at this event. He does play here. He's played here 11 times over the 20 years, so it's kind of like, it almost seems like every other year, or sometimes he just goes back to back and takes 2 years off. But he's only had 3 top 20 finishes. But with this being event a signature status this year, you got a field of only 69 players. We're talking about beating just 2/3 of the field, so it's not like a normal 128 or 144 person field. So plus 165 to get Scott to get in, well, I'll just say the top 1/3 of this field, I think is pretty good price to do so. I will mention, you could, as I said about his finishes this year, tied for 20th, tied for 19th. If you can have a book that pays out in full on ties, that might be something to look for on him this week, because he might be in that kind of borderline area. But I do like Adam Scott to be somewhere near those first or second pages on Sunday.
Love it. Yeah, he just pops up every once in a while, just on the leaderboard, and you're like, oh yeah, Adam Scott. So fun fact, Adam Scott.
So beautiful man.
Yeah, he really is. I was standing kind of off to the fairway at the U.S. Open years ago, and he was coming out of the rough. He didn't catch it clean. He missed my head by about that much. I mean, it was a screamer from one. Oh yeah, screamer from one side of the fairway to the other. It just whizzed by my head.
Oh man,
he came over. That was close, mate. Yeah, it was, Adam.
He said, mate.
I was not ready. Actually, I think it was his caddy that said that. I mean, I was not ready. Like, there's no reason I should have been ready. I wasn't that far up, and I was on the other side of the fairway. Just really thick rough, man. He came out hot. He almost drilled me right in the head.
That's
that was
great.
A pretty funny moment there. Yeah, pretty funny moment. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Puerto Rico Open, and then we haven't talked a whole lot about Live and the PGA Tour. But I am writing articles on Live, and I'll tell everyone why I'm doing that. But tell us your sprinkle on the Puerto Rico Open outright winner.
Yeah, just a reminder for everybody that there is an alternate PGA Tour event this week for those that don't qualify for the Arnold Palmer Puerto Rico Open. It's going to be a lot of names you're probably not familiar with, but like we talked about a couple weeks ago, I think it was the Mexico Open. When you're betting these type of tournaments, look for guys that have potential. When Andy was previewing his DraftKings Darling segment, he said a very wise thing. You're not going to find guys in this field that have like consistency or just all upside. You're going to see some ugly things in there, but you're going to see flashes of brilliance. And that was what we talked about with Jake Knapp a couple of weeks ago. This week, I think Ben Silverman is a name I like at the Puerto Rico Open. He's 55-1 to win. He's a winner in the Corn Ferry Tour last season, just like Jake Knapp was. He's coming off back-to-back top 20 finishes at the Mexico Open and last week at the Cognizant Classic. So obviously he's got some upside. He's playing pretty well. That's about all the good stats I'm going to be able to find on a guy like that, and that's kind of what you're going to see in a lot of these players in this field. So just keep that in mind, but it is worth throwing a few darts out there this week. And Ben Silverman, Puerto Rico Open winner, hopefully will come through for us.
Love it. Yeah, so I've started writing articles for WagerTalk.com about the Live Tour. It's a product I don't think I can ignore at this point. They've got too many big names over there to kind of just not acknowledge that it's happening. Betting markets are opening up more and more with each and every state that opens it up. It's more betting opportunities. And just researching and looking over there, there's some trends emerging with some of these guys that you can play. There's not a ton of bets that you can make, but there's a lot of finishing positions, outright winners, things like that. So I want to run this theory by you, Nick. So we've seen these outright winners that kind of coming out of nowhere, and we're seeing some of these a lot of bigger name guys just not performing well on the PGA Tour. And now you're hearing these Live guys completely whine about not being in the world golf rankings, and it's like you guys took a bunch of money and you knew what the possibilities were, you knew what the ramifications were, and now you're whining about it. I'm wondering if some of these bigger name PGA Tour guys, if this is really bothering them, if the guys that they're used to playing with just aren't there anymore. Like when you're a kid and your friend moves from one school to another, there's an uneasy kind of lonely feeling. And I wonder if over on Live, it's just not what they thought it was going to be. Like, congratulations on the money. But does Joaquin Neiman strike you as being happy? He does it to me. Every time he talks, he's complaining about something. And it was like, you went over there and took a bunch of money, and I don't hear very many positive things. I don't hear any. Do you hear anybody talking about how awesome the Live Tour is and how they don't miss the PGA Tour at all? No, they're trying to get back in the majors. They're trying to get back in the world golf rankings. My fear is that these guys have gone down this path, finding that there is not happiness there, that there's an empty feeling. And now you got the PGA Tour, who is kind of torn apart. And now you got these guys on Live who are not very happy. And of course, the fans certainly cannot be happy. My annual fantasy golf league that we do, half the people this year than normal. This is a league I've been doing for 12 years. Half the people, and most of the people that aren't in there, I've asked. They said, "Yeah, I don't really have any interest in golf. I can't watch John Rahm every week. I can't watch Brooks Koepka. I can't watch these guys. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that this has just really, really torn the sport apart, and now we're just watching some of these bigger name guys on PGA Tour who have lost some of the interest and competitiveness, and you got these guys on Live who I just don't hear anything positive coming from them? Doesn't strike me that they're 100% happy with their decision."
Yeah, obviously, long term for us as viewers and fans, it's not great. I'm sure there will be a solution where everybody gets back together and is friends at some point again. It could be years from now. It might be shorter than that, but it probably has to happen. I just can't figure out how to make everybody happy. He paid some, and there's got to be a penalty, all that crap. So it's going to be very difficult to figure that out. But it seems like for the sport in general, it's going to have to happen. And yeah, I think for the LAV guys, it's simply what they're worried about is being forgotten, right? So you're not getting world ranking points. You're not being on TV anymore. You're not going to eventually you're not going to qualify for the majors unless you've already won one. So at some point, you're just not out there anymore, and you kind of get forgotten about, and you got paid. And for, I would say, 2/3 of that tour, they probably already were forgotten about. Wasn't a Hudson Swadford over there? I don't remember the last time I said his name
Oh yeah,
until
there's all
today.
kinds of
Charles
Matthew
Howell.
Wolf.
Some of those
Matthew
guys are
Wolf.
great. Yeah, they did great. They did great. Good for them. But the 10, 20 people that were needle movers, they don't want to be forgotten. And I think they're realizing that there's a good chance they might be if something doesn't change.
Yeah, I mean, their tournament was at 3 a.m. my time. I didn't watch one shot. Didn't watch one shot of it. I literally wrote an article about it and I had predictions. I didn't see one single shot of it, nor did I want to. And I saw Tyrell Hatton, Tyrell Hatton was quoted as saying, "Where are all the people?" Like and it's like, did you not have you not seen what's going on there? Did you really expect there to be hundreds of people following each hole? People aren't watching and people aren't going to these tournaments. There was that shot of John Rahm finishing up his hole. There were 35 people in the gallery. You could count each person, and I think it's a good point. They're worried about being forgotten. That's a great point.
The good news is the PGA Tour has replaced Tyrell Hatton with Shane Lowry in anger management.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Who's pretty angry.
I wonder if there's just a lot of guys that are not in a good headspace right now. And who's left to win? It's these guys like Austin Eckroat who are like I need to win to get their motivation is much better. I think they're in a more competitive, more aggressive mindset. Some of these guys, it only takes one of these long shots each week to come out ahead of the field. So interesting discussion. We'll keep our eyes on that. So I have not released any LIV bets to clients yet. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. But I mean, John Rahm has finished in the top 10 every single time. Brooks Koepka is always up there. So I'm sure there's some value to be had. If there is, we'll let you know. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Make sure you leave us a comment. Tell us what your best bet is and use that promo code Palmer49. There's no better time to use it. We've got a stack loaded field at the Arnold Palmer. We've got the players coming up. You can get 30 days of all golf bets for $49. Just use the promo code Palmer49. Works on my page, works on Nick's page, both of us over at WagerTalk.com. We've got you covered with outright winners, head-to-head matchups, finishing position bets, everything to help you turn a profit and build that bankroll. Good luck on all your plays. We will see everyone next week on Tee Time.